Hey everybody, I am just going to talk about the Switch for a little while. I've got about 15 minutes to myself, so I'm going to have a little chat to myself about it. Obviously, if you guys are interested, I'm no reviewer, but by all means, if you want to hear my thoughts on the console and stuff, please stick around. That's what this video is about. I can't imagine this video is going to have any long-term traction, so just as a regular update for the channel, I probably won't be streaming this weekend because I'm at work, and I'm seeing a friend tonight, so it means that I'll probably be streaming again in next week, probably Monday. We will see, though. Please stay tuned to the Discord. Links in the description for that. And I'll let you know when I'm going live anyway. But back on track. The Switch is out. I bought the Switch today. It's been great as someone that works at a game shop because I've got that sweet discount. And out of everybody from my work, I'm the only one who's got one right now. As far as I'm aware, the only two people at work that have pre-ordered one was me and another chap I work with. But the guy I work with actually is working. He gave me my Switch, so he's still at work. He can't touch his yet, and it just leaves me on my own. And I just want to talk very briefly about my first impressions and why I think it's a really good thing. Because spoilers, I think it's great. Very quickly, I want to mention I played Nintendo consoles pretty much for as long as I can remember. I didn't get the Nintendo 64. We had a PlayStation 1. That wasn't up to me. I was too young to really have a games console way back when. But my older sister got a PS1. This was one of my earliest gaming memories of like Gran Turismo and Crash Bandicoot. And then it moved on to me getting a Game Boy, getting Pokemon, and that's kind of where my Nintendo obsession began. But I should mention my experience with Nintendo has been particularly varied since I had the Game Boy, Color, Game Boy Advance SP, the DS, and so forth. So from there, I've kind of owned pretty much an iteration of every system. Including the Wii, well, the GameCube, then the Wii U, which I still adore, by the way, and then the Switch. I'd like to bring notice to the fact that I really enjoy innovation in the realm of gaming, because it's so rare these days, which is ridiculous. We're retreading the same nonsense, releasing the same carbon copy shooters every single year, and Nintendo seem to be the only hardware company, at the very least, that are willing to take huge risks. The Wii was a very strange foray into like motion controls, and for a while became the industry norm, and have since led into things like VR for other companies. Like, it's a fantastic step from Nintendo. And the Switch, they're doing something they should have done with the Wii U. I will admit that, first and foremost, that's completely true. They should have done this with the Wii U instead of what they gave us. But Nintendo have done a lot of great things here. And the first thing I want to mention is just the price point. This console is £280. That's, sterling, UK money. And pounds, again, it's a pretty strong currency. You're going to get it for like around about the same in like dollars and euros as well. So it's a really well-priced console. It undercuts, the launch costs for the Wii U, for the PS4, the Xbox One, and each of these consoles that came out in the past 5-6 years, they've had some fantastic successes by all means, but they've been particularly traditional with the case of Sony and Microsoft's consoles, and then the Wii U was a little bit more off the wall and really poorly marketed, which Nintendo did pick up on this time. But the big thing to me is that they're undercutting these consoles in some cases by £70 or more, which is a pretty, that's a game for the Switch. That's a decent amount of money. That's undercutting them at launch by a significant margin. And, continuing support for Amiibo and things, as well as giving you, and this is, amazing, an LCD touchscreen. This thing is LCD, I don't know if that's correct, but, it's like a haptic touchscreen, and it's like, looks great. It has really good resolution for everything that's playing on it at like 480p, I think. But truth be told, the most impressive thing about it is that you get 2 controllers and a screen. Like, it sounds crazy, but this thing can play games, it can load games, connect to the internet, and obviously it can detach controllers from itself to use with friends, family, or just by yourself. And that's great. Giving yourself, so many options for portability is a huge bonus. The major drawback of it is the battery power, but at the same time, it's it's well worth it. It's a lithium battery as well, which are particularly odd to look after, but I'll have more on that in a moment. But the price point, the console's being made at a profit. Nintendo have said this themselves, and that is perfect. After the commercial failure of the Wii U, which barely sold, barely shifted more copies than the Virtual Boy, it's ridiculous, because the Virtual Boy now is gold dust. You cannot find it anywhere for a decent price. I don't think the same will be said for the Wii U, because disc formats are probably something Nintendo's not going back to for a while, and it's not that special to have Blu-ray discs working on a console, so it doesn't really matter. But it was like 13-14 million units worldwide, which is crazy. But still, that was made at a loss, and Nintendo stuck their neck out with something that was, a bit creative, and ended up getting, the hands chopped off for it. It was a little bit messy. A few people took, pay cuts for the commercial failure of the Wii U, which is a shame because that console had a great library of games behind it, and I think largely it is an underrated unit. It's great. I'm happy to see that a lot of those games that people did miss out on are coming to the Switch. The likes of Mario Kart 8 is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I'll probably get even though I still own Mario Kart 8. We're getting Splatoon 2, which I imagine, I haven't seen exact details on it, but I imagine it's going to have a lot of the same content as the first one, recycled with more stuff on top, and then a new story from what I understand. So, a great game on, an underappreciated console coming to the new one, coming to the Switch, which is great. Perfect, really. And I'm really happy for Nintendo to be able to say, yep, they put forward a unit, they're making money on it for every single one that's sold after they have to get back, like, research, development, distribution, all that nonsense. So it's not like they're going to make money straight away, but they're not losing money in every console after all of those costs anyway, so that's great. It's like double glazing, right? Like double glazed windows, you get your money back out of them after a while because it saves you so much money on energy, right? Nintendo were doing that. They're on the payback system. But obviously they never hit that point with the Wii U, and they're going to hit it pretty quickly for the Switch, I imagine, because it's got a lot of traction. And although the reviews for it have been kind of mixed, it's done really well for itself so far. I'm really happy with it. And I know like the day one update did fix a lot of the issues that people were mentioning on the reviews. So, all things considered, I think those reviews should really change. Realistically, we will see them change in future. But my first impressions of it, it's fantastic. I got it home. I unpacked it from the box. It has about 50% battery out of the box for me. Well, for me, it was like 49%. So I booted it all up, set it all up, put them on Nintendo Network ID, and went to buy some games. And I say buy some games from there because I didn't buy Zelda, and I'll talk about that in a second as well. I bought some games myself. I spent £50 and 26 pence precisely. I know that because I had to put on £50, and then when I looked through the library to buy things that I wanted, I bought Snipper Clips, I bought Fast RMX, and I bought Spectre of Torment, the new Shovel Knight game. And I downloaded them all really quickly, got into playing them. They barely take up any space on the system, and they're all fantastic. I had one last look through because I had £6 and a little bit left on the system after I'd already bought all those, so had a look through to see what was on there. And one of the games I was waiting for was one of the Neo Geo ports, which was Metal Slug 3, which I knew was coming, but I didn't know it was a launch title. Apparently it's gone under the radar, and it was 26 pence more than what I already had on the system, so I put another 26 pence on the system. Bought Metal Slug as well, and I could not be happier with it. It's great, controls really well, plays fantastically, as you'd imagine, but it's beautiful. Everything I've played has been really responsive, it's been really fun. I played Fast RMX with my mom and I lost, it was fantastic. I have no excuses, I'm not going to make any. I lost to my mother, oh well. But yeah, I really enjoyed the games I picked up. I didn't get Zelda because Zelda is really, really expensive, and I'm someone that believes firmly you should vote with your money, right? Kickstarter is such an interesting, dangerous trap for me because there's so many things that are actual innovations within the industry that do cost a lot of money to get into. One of which was a few months ago, probably the end of last year, maybe earlier than that. There was a new mouse, right, and it had a gyroscope in it, and you could lean and twist, and there was pressure sensitivity on the mouse buttons, so you could have different inputs depending on what you were doing. So you could have pressure sensitive acceleration bound to your left click, and the harder you press, the faster you go. Things like that are really interesting, and it's a step in the right direction. So for me, I want to put money to that project. I want to be able to provide for those creators and tell them, you're doing a great job. Industry, listen, do this. But of course, when things gain enough traction with Kickstarter in particular, and that mouse, it's a lot of money to spend. It was 140 quid to get one. That's half the price of the Switch, by the way. So I just said no. The company had got way more than what they needed for the project. There wasn't really any stretch goals, and so they weren't going to miss my money. Everyone else had already spoken for me, so I took my money away from that project. And the guy that ran it messaged me, gave me a discount, and said, "Hey, do you want it for 120 instead? They're going to be way more expensive if you try to pick them up after they're released." And I said, no. The only reason I supported it is to support what you're doing, and it is a great thing. But I can spend the money on other stuff. You don't need it. As much as it is a great thing that you are doing, and I support you, you don't need my money anymore. And I do want the product, but we'll see what happens in 5 years when the price on these things, as they become more commercialized, more recognizable, more commonplace, it'll be a lot cheaper. So to that guy I said, sorry, no, I'll spend my money somewhere else. But again, back on the note of Nintendo being innovators in the industry, the Switch is a great step towards portability for consoles. And because of the display, because of everything you get, and the value for money, which is, I will repeat, astronomically good, this is a great console. From my first impressions, everything about it is great. The sound's incredible, it looks incredible. The slide in the Joy-Cons in and out is a little bit stiff, but understandably so the whole thing doesn't just fall apart. But the buttons all feel really good and responsive. The HD rumble feedback is amazing. There's so many things about it that I really, really do enjoy, and genuinely props to Nintendo for this. It's been great. So, can I see a future for it, is the next big point. And the only way to really talk about that is to say, look at how Nintendo are spreading out the games for their release, right? People are calling it a content drip. People are calling it, any given name, like a queue. But it's really interesting. I must have mentioned this in this video already. Sorry, I'm rambling, I know. But I work in a game shop. I sell these things to people. And to tell somebody, oh, hey, come and buy the PSVR. There's this game, this game, this game, this game. And next spring, we're going to see Resident Evil 7, Star Trek, and that's it. And then people go, yeah, sure, that sounds great. I'm going to get 10 games on day one, and then I'll get more games as time goes by. And they pick up the PSVR, they get a couple of games, and wait for the rest to come out. And every week, without fail, we have people come into the shop and say, is there anything new out for the PSVR this week? And the answer is always no. It's a real, genuine shame that more companies haven't done this already. But the Nintendo Switch has done it right. So, if anyone doesn't know, the Nintendo Switch's games, the major games that have been released, Nintendo have a weird fan term about them called the Big Three, which refers to Zelda, Mario, and Pokemon, because they're all system sellers. Those three franchises just bring in money for ages. They hold money really, really well, and it's understandable because they are first-party properties with great, rich histories that have evolved with software and hardware updates, and that's fantastic. So Zelda as a day one thing, great move. Next month we've got Mario Kart coming out. I think I mentioned that, but yeah, next month is Mario Kart. Then we've got, going further into the spring, we've got Splatoon to look forward to. We've got ARMS to look forward to, and those things alone, that's 4 months worth of content there as far as Nintendo are concerned. And that's 4 months of content that we should expect to continue until the end of the year. So instead of coming into the shop, buying the Switch for £280, then buying a game for £60, then buying a card, an SD card for it that's going to cost you another $20, $30, and then walking away with a £400 bill, right? You come in, you can do that now. That's £400 as opposed to spending $600 because you bought Mario and Zelda and everything else that they're pushed out on day one. When these games take longer to complete than you think you're going to need, Zelda's huge. From what I've heard, it's in the hundreds of hours, Skyrim big, right? And so, for that alone, you don't need any other game than Zelda if you really, really like Zelda. And this dripping system, this constant game release towards the end of the year, is really interesting because Nintendo have picked a time that we don't normally see hardware releases. We normally see it tail end of October, November, December, the end of the year, the last quarter, because that's when Christmas sales go up, and that's where the industry has the most sales of everything. The exception being PC gaming, because obviously people buy PCs all the time, but you do see a similar spike in that as well, because people buy parts for loved ones, family, and so on. So for Nintendo not to release the Switch in November was a big, bold statement. And I say that because, again, Nintendo are an innovating company, but it's a huge, bold statement because it means people are able to buy it now and continually spend money on it. Effectively, that spreads the cost of the system over the year, as opposed to putting a lot of pressure on the end of the year again. Because, again, you spend £600 at that point to buy the console, a couple of games, an SD card, and whatever else you might need. And that's great. What they've done is they've picked a time where there's nothing else coming out really. We've got the Switch and a couple of software releases, and that's it. That's great. what we get to see is obviously like people come in, buy one game, leave, be happy, and then next month when they've got another paycheck, they can buy another game, and the month after that when they've got another paycheck, they can buy another game. And not to mention, this is the right time. It's like coming up on spring, right? It's the right time where Nintendo have targeted, Americans on spring break, where people have got money to spend and they want to spend it doing something they want to do. Video games is a big hobby for, teenagers, young adults like myself, and beyond. Like, it's not confined to a single audience anymore. And the Switch trying to market itself to these younger adults, these people that grew up on Pokemon and Mario and Zelda, and then say, hey, look, this is out when you're off school. This is great, right? Like, you can play this and not have to worry about wasting your time from other things, right? You don't have to be revising, you don't have to be studying, you can just do this and not feel guilty, and that's great. And we've also got like a similar break coming up in April, I think, for in Japan, which is obviously like a huge market for Nintendo. The biggest markets are America and Japan, so hitting both of those for their like kind of target audiences of like teens and up is fantastically played, and we get to see progress throughout the year. The system itself, I think, has a lot of potential. So in terms of like the drip feeding of the content and what can be done with what's present, like the hardware present and the upgrades we have from the Switch compared to the Wii U or any other Nintendo system for that matter, is great. I think at least to some extent, indie development for this will be huge. Nintendo have had a great history with indie development over the past few years, like the WiiWare stuff, and then obviously moving on to just like the eShop in like a broader spectrum has been great. Like most of my like fantastic indie experiences have either been on PC or Nintendo consoles. Where, like, on my 3DS, for example, I played, like, V6, and I played, like, Mighty Switch Force, and all these other games that are, like, on my library of my 3DS that I love. They're treasured. They're great experiences because they are dedicated to people who enjoy the genres they're made for, being, like, action platformers or puzzle platformers on consoles that grew, like, provided people a childhood with platformers and action games and shooters and all these 2D side-scrolling games. And, to be able to see Nintendo coming out the gates with a pretty decent independent library is great. I'm super happy for them, like, genuinely, super, super good. I'm going to come a little bit backwards on myself here and just mention the battery again. As far as I'm concerned, the battery in this is, for those that don't know, the estimated battery time is 2.5 hours in portable mode, all the way up to 6 hours, depending on how intensive the game that you're playing is, or if you're just leaving it in standby mode and browsing the internet or whatever. So in portable mode, you can expect anywhere between 3 and 6 hours, realistically, of use on it before you have to charge it again. And that seems a little bit lackluster. You can actually get like portable, I can't remember the exact ampage, but you can get like portable batteries that people use for like their phones and stuff when Pokemon Go was going. You get one of those with like a higher amperage, and you can actually take that out with you and charge it on the go, so it's not a big problem. Nintendo made a good choice by giving it like a USB Type-C input to charge the actual charge the system, and that's great. To have this tablet going around with you, going to a train station, on planes, whatever else, perfect. It's like really, really well played. But the battery, like I said, I'm leaving mine on to charge right now because I've ran it completely flat and I'm running it back up to 100% battery. And the reason I do that is because as someone that works in, selling consoles, selling phones, one of the things that you can't check for when you test these things is how good batteries are just by looking at it for 10, 15, 30 minutes, right? In that window, you can't tell how good a battery is. You can tell if it's broken because the thing won't turn on or it won't charge properly. But as a day one customer, what you want to do for most things, or someone that's picking up, a pre-owned console or a new one, run everything you possibly can to 0 battery, just void it completely, and then charge it back up to full. This shows that the battery can contain charge. It shows that obviously the thing will still take charge at a regular rate. It's not, discharging too fast or charging too slowly. And from there, you're able to, say, oh, I bought this yesterday and the battery doesn't charge properly. And you're normally covered. Like, that goes under like manufacturing warranties. It's nothing to do with yourselves. So at that point, great. And as someone who's in that, habit of telling people to do this, I can't be a hypocrite. I've got to do it myself. So I ran it till it was flat. I played a little bit of Fast RMX. Like, I say a little bit. I played quite a bit. And then, obviously, Shovel Knight, which is so good. So good. and I'm having a great time with it, genuinely. But on the note of battery, something came out this past week where basically if you're playing the game, like you're playing with like the Joy-Con or the Pro Pad wirelessly, and you've got the Switch in its dock and you're playing it on a TV, you are charging it while it's in that dock. Like, that's a smart thing to do. It's a home console that you can take with you, and the way you play it as a home console is also the way you charge the Joy-Cons and also the actual unit itself. Brilliantly done, great idea. So when you plug it in there, the lithium battery, that's what I've heard it is anyway, needs to charge back up. But if you're playing a game, charging it at the same time, you can only get up to 85% battery. And people were complaining this is a bug, why isn't it fully charging? And a few people stepped forward with some pretty sage advice, and that was that it's probably not a bug and is actually a feature, because lithium batteries have the tendency to die out really quickly if you overcharge them. You see this with phones and a lot of things where you get to 100% battery, but eventually that 100% lasts for 6 hours rather than the initial like 24 or whatever, because you just left it on charge overnight. I'm guilty of it as much as anybody else. Hopefully, you get a phone with a good battery. Like, Apple phones are particularly prone to things like this, which isn't good. But Nintendo put a precaution in where if you're playing the game and you're trying to use the system, it will stop at 85%. And at that point, the dock will say, all right, that's charged, and turn it off. So it stops charging. Then as soon as it goes back down to 84%, it goes, hey, it's 84%. Let's go back up to 85, and it switches it back on and off. So the dock's doing some intelligent things in the meantime, and the unit itself will get a decent amount of charge. You'll still be able to play it, and it won't damage the battery while you're playing it at the same time. Again, great choice. Lends itself again to like having a really strong future for the Switch by making the units themselves really useful and have a really long life within themselves. Even if it's only going to be 3 hours of gameplay when you're on a bus or a train or whatever. It means you can charge it when you get home and you won't see any loss of performance or anything in that time, which is fantastic. Really great. Well done. But that is, on the note of portability at least, a huge plus. Keeping it portable and maintaining a good battery and, allowing people to play out and about is huge. And I want to combine all this together, if I can, where this is a console that gives you 2 controllers in the box. We have not seen this in years. Like, I don't even remember the last time it happened. But you get 2 controllers in the box for most games. It's with its like 3 modes that you can use. It like tabletop in the kickstand, as the tablet with the Joy-Con attached, and then of course just like having it out and about, whatever the other one is like tabletop mode, whatever as well. It's great. Like, it's a very portable, friendly, accessible device that's likely going to get shown to a lot more people in public than any other console. Like, if you walk around, you see someone with a 3DS, I guess that's not too far out of the ordinary, you know what I mean? People sitting in a coffee shop on a 3DS or something, or a Vita even, like, that's fine, that makes sense. But seeing someone in a coffee shop with a Switch, right? You're going to see someone with a Switch, and if they're with a friend, there's going to be 2 people playing a game. Like, it's not just a singular, lonely experience, not an antisocial environment that you're providing. It's a very social, open, place, a safe place for people to come and talk to you, and it makes you a lot more approachable, and makes the system itself a lot more approachable as well, I feel. So that's really great. Like, I like that a lot. I think that's very inviting, and Nintendo did a great job. Because again, 2 controllers for like undercutting the price is amazing. Like, amazing. I mean, that's pretty much everything I want to say about the Switch. I think it's a really great device. It's got a great future ahead of it. I want to see more games. That's kind of all I want to see. But with the likes of Stardew Valley coming with its multiplayer update, that's going to be awesome. Obviously, we're going to get Pocket Rumble and a bunch of other fighters like Ultra Street Fighter 2 before the end of the year. Amazing. In fact, I think that's May now. Like, so much is on the horizon. I'm super happy about it. And I hope that more people continue to support it, as opposed to it being laughed off by a couple of companies, which kind of happened. So, it's going to be an interesting ride for the next year, maybe 2, to try and see what happens with it. But I'm happy to say that I bought it on day 1, which is rare for a console. But I didn't buy 1 game. I got 4 games for the price of 1. 4 games that I did actually really want. And I think that they're, some of them are really social games, some of them are more personal games, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun, and I'm not disappointed with my purchase yet. Hopefully the battery is all okay when it's all fully charged. We'll see that, and that'll be great to check everything is all prim and proper. But it seems like I'm fine, and I'm really happy for that as well. I mean, just as a last notice, not so much about the Switch anymore, but some of the accessories for the Switch are bizarre. The charging grip, for those who don't know, again, if anyone does actually care, I'm sure nobody is even here anymore, but, for those that care, the charging grip is pretty much exactly the same as the Joy-Con grip you get in the box, but the grip itself has like a play and charge kit style charging port at the top. So instead of charging, say, the console itself, or the dock, like you put the power through the dock, so you can put it up to your TV, you just charge the actual, Joy-Cons while they're connected to the charging grip. And then you kind of unplug it and walk away and use the Joy-Con as you would anyway. But the Joy-Con are meant to have like 30-hour battery lives, and they charge when they're plugged into the dock. Like, why would you possibly need that? It seems like a ridiculous purchase. But the Pro Controller, which I did mention in passing earlier, is an amazing purchase. The Pro Controller, for anybody that doesn't know, is a bit more expensive than the average pad. Here in the UK, the pretty much standard selling price for a controller for a next-gen or current-gen console at this point, for a current-gen controller is, £40 to £50, more often than not 50 or more for limited edition controllers. And that's a lot of money, right? The PlayStation 4 is the one with the best value for money, I'll admit straight away, because the PS4 gives you 50 quid, gets you a pad. It's usually going to be like black or white. But that pad has like an inbuilt battery that you can charge and a decent battery life, as well as the ability to use it on your PC straight out of the box. That's great. The Xbox has got the worse... a worse example of actual value for money, because you still need batteries to use the Xbox One controllers out of the box. And of course, like, you can use it on your PC and stuff, which is great, but at the same time, you're going to need a charging cable for that. And the most places you're going to get a charging cable, on average, it's going to be from a play and charge kit style thing, and that's going to be more money on top. And you're looking at the official one, £15 to £20. So at the upper reaches of like an Xbox pad and the rechargeable batteries you can get for it, which are not included, it's going to be about 70 quid. And the Switch Pro pad is 65. Now, normally that's going to be like a huge rip-off. People were complaining about this from day one. And I will preface this, I do not have one, but it's something I'm interested in getting in the future. I've spent a lot of money, obviously, so I'm kind of not interested in spending that much more right now. But depending on what games can come out for it, the Pro Controller will be an interesting purchase. At £65, you're getting a self-contained battery with this pad that's like a more traditional format of a controller. I wish it was more like a GameCube controller, because that thing is gorgeous and I love to play Smash on it. But, it's just one of those things where you've got this Pro Controller that costs you £65 with an internal battery. So it's a similar price, if not a little bit cheaper, than the Xbox One controllers would be for rechargeable battery and the cables and stuff. So that's interesting enough, on its own. But the battery life boasted by the Pro Controller is like 4 times that of any of its competitors. And paying that much more money, which is marginal really, like £15, for something that's going to have a longer battery life and more battery usage per session is like way, way better. Especially with the Switch, where you do need to charge the controllers, and people have complained that the Joy-Con cannot be charged separately away from the dock or without the charging, the charging grip itself, because obviously it is difficult to charge it if you're trying to play the console and you don't have any other controllers. You're kind of confined to just leaving the Switch where it is, and you can't play for a while, which is... it's awkward. But in those situations, you can use the Pro Controller, and you're paying for what is effectively the second controller. I know he said it already comes with 2, but you're paying for, like, that extra controller that you'd have for, like, a friend or whatever as well. But it also exists as, like, an alternative to when you're charging the Joy-Con or the Switch itself, so you can still play at home. It has a really good battery life, so the chances are, if one of them is charging, you don't need the other one to be on charge to play, because both of them have great battery lives, both sets of the controllers here. And, it's a really interesting, investment, and I do want one in the future. Again, I'll make use of that discount wherever I can, but it's still a lot of money to spend. And I understand that it's a pretty high-ticket item for something that doesn't do a lot more than you've already got out of the box, but it is an accessory. That's why it's called an accessory, because it, lives up to the definition. And I think that's all you can really ask for in that situation. But regardless, we're coming up on about half an hour. It's way longer than I thought I would have been chatting away, but it's just me rambling. If anybody has just skipped to the end, hello. The Switch itself, I'm really happy with. It's a really satisfying day one purchase. I didn't get the Wii U on day one because I didn't think it would be, that worth it to get, and I waited a while till we got a good bundle, which gave me Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon out of the box. That was really great. and I bought it at a time where you could still get a free game as well. So for me, my 250 quid when I bought the Wii U gave me Mario Kart 8, Splatoon, and with the Wind Waker, which was a great bundle of stuff, and I'm really happy for that. The Switch has cost me a little bit more than that, but of course I am buying it on day one, and I haven't got all the accessories that I do want for it, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a great system with a really promising future, a great lineup of games, even aside from Zelda, which I didn't buy, because for the price of Zelda, for less than the price of Zelda, I've managed to purchase 4 games, all of which I really wanted, and showcase, the social aspect of the console a little bit more than Zelda would. And I think that's quite valuable, especially considering it's going to be the regular new console buzz, where for the coming weeks I'm going to be having, more meetings with friends and family members that want to see what the Switch is all about, I'm sure. So, but be that as it may, I'm really happy with the purchase. Hopefully everything works just great and continues to in the future. After this year, it's going to be really interesting to see the titles that come out, and I'd like to see this content drip continue. Nintendo have come forward with an innovative product, an interesting sales strategy, a really strong marketing campaign, and I think it could be a real great recipe for success as soon as the reviews pick back up and re-mention that a lot of the issues that were coming forward in this past week about like poor battery life or poor connectivity with the Joy-Con, those things do get fixed with patches, and it's still early doors. But that's it. Thank you very much for joining me, folks. I hope you have a good one, genuinely. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'm hopefully going to be streaming next week, so if you want any more information on that, please join the Discord. It's in the description. All the information that you need for me is there. But that's it for now, genuinely. Thanks so much, and I'll see you folks next time.